Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Deez, this is my workshop, and this is going to be the 3-year review of the Vevor mini lathe. Can you believe it's been 3 years? 3 years since I first started this hobby and first took a leap of faith, so to speak, and purchased this Vevor mini lathe, MX400. This will probably likely be my last review of this lathe. This will be the 3rd one I've done. I still feel the same way, to be honest with you. The Vevor lathe has been the catalyst for me to get into the world of hobby machining. Let's get on to the 3-year review, and I'll give you my thoughts on this machine, and I'll tell you whether I think you should purchase this or not. This should be a quick video. I've done plenty of other videos on this machine. I've used this machine in tons of videos. You can get a good assessment about this machine by watching the videos that I have put out there. Go through some of them if you're interested. I give some in-depth usage of this thing in many of those videos, so there's no need to go into too much of that with this one, although that's probably why you're here. You're wanting to know, should I get a Vevor mini lathe? What's this all about? So let's get started with the review. The first thing that I'm going to point out are some of the cons, the biggest cons of this machine that I feel are something that are noteworthy, something you should be aware of. The first thing is the tailstock. The tailstock on this particular lathe, on the one that I received, I don't believe it's not a good tailstock. Most of it's aluminum, some of it's steel. This base plate is aluminum. I think this part is cast, but regardless, I know a lot of them are aluminum. I really would just like an all cast tailstock. I don't even believe this one is assembled with the components that are designed for it. I think this was a scrap bin build, and it shows. I've done some videos on this thing. It was very difficult to center up. There was a manufacturing defect underneath causing it to basically ride on a tipping point. It was nearly impossible to get lined up. I kind of went through it all. I disassembled it in previous videos. I have that sorted out. It's pretty close now. I wish it was closer, but I got so fed up with it. It's good enough for the work that I'm doing. But the tailstock, not high quality. I'm not sure any of these come with a good quality tailstock. Maybe I could buy a third-party tailstock and it'd be better. I'm not sure. The next thing is the tensioner pulley. So if you look at the pulley system on the side of the lathe, I'll just insert a clip here that will show you exactly what I'm talking about. So that tensioner pulley, the way that it's originally designed, there's 2 back-to-back bearings, and over time, with the forces of the 2 belts pulling against each other, causes those 2 bearings to wear out. Mine did. So I've got a series of videos on that as well, on a collaboration I did with a friend of mine, and we went back and forth and we came up with an improved design that is really holding up well. And if you're interested in that, there's videos on that. But that's going to wear out. Know that if you buy one of these, your tensioner pulley is probably going to need some either replacement or new bearings, or maybe even some rework of some sort. When you get this thing, it's going to be dirty, it's going to be filthy. You're going to want to take apart as much as you can, clean up all the dirt and debris, and the milling dust and shavings. They don't really clean all that stuff up. Mine wasn't caked in Cosmoline. I kind of wonder if it was returned and then I got it. It had oil on it. It was probably new, but somebody had gone through and cleaned all the real thick Cosmoline off of it. I don't know. But it works. There's manufacturing. Here's another con. Manufacturing, quality of build. There's going to be inclusions in your castings. There's the LED panel in mine has a blemish, a crack, a little spot that's broke basically, but it works. I looked into replacing it. That little thing was $100, so I'm not replacing that. I probably could have got a replacement if I had called them. Within the first year, if you call them, they actually responded to me, and usually monetary replacement, they would send me money. If I bought a part, sent them the invoice. The panels, the covers, everything that's put on here, the screw holes don't line up. There's sharp edges that you can cut yourself on. You have to spend time cleaning that stuff up. The stickers that are on are put on crooked. It's just not high quality, right? You know, look at the price you're paying for the thing. Less than $1,000. You're gonna get, you know, you're not gonna get the top-notch, high quality build stuff. But those are some cons that you're gonna have to understand before you buy one of these things. The motor that I have, now that's starting to show signs of wear. This is fairly recent, so this is almost 3 years. I'm recording this a little bit early, but 3 years into this, when I put the motor in reverse, it's got kind of a high-pitched noise. There's something going on there. I suspect this motor is going to go out on me at some point, and I'll have to replace that motor. It's very easy to replace. There's just 4 bolts in the mounting plate on the side of the lathe, but it's something I'm going to have to purchase and acquire and replace. It's showing signs of wear. Know that the components that they build these with are not top-notch, high-quality things. This is a little clip for the 3-year Vevor mini lathe review. But if you listen, you can hear there's a whine now. I believe it's in the motor. We're going to take this pulley off of here and inspect that. But I think it's the motor. Going in reverse, it has this kind of a whining noise. I don't know if that's indicative of the motor going out or something like that, but that is a factor that I want to make sure I include in the 3-year review. And forward, a little bit of a whine, but not as bad. All right, we have the pulley and everything off of here. The motor is isolated. It's just the motor by itself. We're going to kick that into forward, turn this on. Let's listen to it. Has a bit of a whine to it, but it works. I don't know, that sounds okay to me. But if we go in reverse, let's turn it on. Hear that? Well, I think that motor will probably go out sometime. It is still functioning. Maybe you can comment down below if you know what that is. I'm not real keen on tearing that motor apart and changing parts out of the motor. The motor itself is simple to replace. You take this plate off and these 4 bolts, change it out. As long as you can find a spare, simple to replace. I'm not going to replace it until it fails. There's no sense in that. But it is definitely making a noise in reverse that it wasn't doing before. 3-year Vevor mini lathe review. This has to go into that video. The last thing on the cons, real quick, just know that if you purchase one of these, I would just tell yourself right away, there's a 50-50 shot that I got to return this thing. With knowing that, that's the reason I chose to use Amazon. I used Amazon Prime to ship it. I know not everybody's a Prime member, but I had the option to ship it back for free if there was something. If it was just total crap, I could at least say, hey, come and get this thing. I'm done. I don't want it. Now, I would imagine all of these sellers on Amazon, they're probably going to work back and forth with you before they just take it back. They're probably going to want to compensate you monetarily one way or another. So keep that in mind if you buy one of these things. Let's move on to the pros. The pros are this lathe is cheap. It's very affordable. If you're looking to get into this hobby, but you don't want to drop $5 grand on a high quality machine that's small for your shop, you might consider one of these. I would recommend it. The reason I chose this Vevor MX400, in this case it's an MX400. I believe that is your 400 millimeters. All the numbers mean something, but you know, it's metric, right? So there is if you do any research, most of these are like MX210 MVs or MX200. Just that whole line is basically the same headstock, the same size chuck, the same size bed. You know, your varying lengths of bed is really what you're going to get. The spindle bore is 38 millimeter or almost 1.5 inches. It's the largest spindle bore on one of these small machines. I do highly recommend that for the small shop. There's a lot of times where you might be turning something that's a large diameter, and in the small shop, you don't want to be hacking up all of your long stock just to work on something you're trying to produce. You know, all this stuff's precious back here, right? So if you can avoid cutting up the thicker diameter stock and just run it through the headstock, you can work on your piece and then cut it off later. I really have appreciated having that large spindle bore. That's a huge, huge pro in my opinion. I like this size of lathe. Some of the 7-inch versions, so basically this is the 8-inch version. You have 7-inch versions of lathes. Those have the smaller 4-inch chucks. This has a 5-inch chuck, a little bit longer swing over. It's just a slightly larger machine that can accommodate larger components, and I think run with some heavier stock. In this case, you can use the 0XA size tool post. In my case, I went ahead and went with the AXA style tool post, that size. I highly recommend that as well. It's very substantial compared to that smaller 0XA size. I got a lot more rigidity out of this one. Something that I have torn into this past late winter, basically this year, I tore into the spindle. I removed the spindle, and I discovered that this particular lathe actually has tapered roller bearings for the spindle. They seem to be decent quality. You know, they're probably not Timken bearings or anything. However, they are tapered roller bearings. They weren't worn out. I didn't need to tear into the headstock. I just had used some WD-40 when I was cleaning up, and it's kind of like a solvent, and it had some of the grease coming out of it. So I did tear into that. I inspected it for the most part, and everything's fine. At least this thing does have some really nice tapered roller bearings for the spindle, and it's holding up very well. I was able to take it apart and reassemble it with just the shop tools that I have, so I was happy with that. But overall, if it wasn't for the price point of this machine, you wouldn't be watching this video, because I wouldn't have got into this hobby and I wouldn't have started putting these things out on the internet. Overall, would I buy a Vevor mini lathe or any other benchtop mini lathe again? Probably, but knowing that I really enjoy this hobby, I'd probably wait until I had enough money and buy something of higher quality. I have no affiliation with Precision Matthews, but I would definitely look into their lathes. They're a little bit bigger than this one. The build quality will be no comparison to one of these. If you're on a tight budget and you just can't really spend that kind of money, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for a better name brand unit, then definitely consider one of these. This thing was less than $1,000. I don't remember now. And without it, I wouldn't have got into this hobby. So overall, would I buy a Vevor mini lathe or any other cheap Chinese benchtop milling lathe again? Or any other cheap Chinese lathe again? Sure. If I, needed a bunch of parts, I'd even consider buying one of these just to upgrade and hopefully get some better components. But honestly, this one's still running. It's churning, it's turning, it's doing everything I need it to do, and I'm keeping the thing alive with some minor improvements and some maintenance and, you know, upgrades to it. Honestly, it's really a fun hobby. One thing I'd recommend that you do is make it your own. If you buy one of these things, start upgrading the components. Put the add-ons on there. Make it your own machine. Put in some custom handles. Put in some, you know, upgrades to the tailstock, to the carriage, to the chuck, whatever you want to do. Customize these machines. That's a big part of the fun. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this useful. Just a 3-year recap review. Probably my last one because I've got plenty of content about this machine out there. You're welcome to go check all that stuff out. I appreciate you all watching. If you haven't subscribed and you like this video or you like some of the content, please do. It helps out the channel. And I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.